Hello again, Struck Club. Today I'm bringing you 3 separate videos that are part of my Disciples Liberation Final Impressions plus Ultimate Newbie Guide. 2 in 1, actually it's 2 in 3. So yeah, this first video will cover combat world size and the map, quests, main side companion, all sorts of quests. The second video will cover Ilion, which is our base of operation, and delve into the marketplace, the blacksmith, the unit buildings, then move on to units and companions, and then wood and itemization. And video number 3 will be build diversity, resources, liberation mode, which is the new game plus mode, as well as the pros and cons that I've been able to find about the game. So buckle up and make sure to watch only the videos you need and skip ahead only to the subjects that you need information about. Now let's talk about the story and provide a little bit of description of the game. The developers themselves describe the game as such. Disciples Liberation is a mature dark fantasy tactical role-playing game. Liberate the land of Nevendar and uncover the endless stories hidden within this richly detailed world where every decision has a consequence and every wrong move could be deadly. Explore a rich overworld and align with a variety of in-world factions. From a human empire tingled by religious extremism to the dark forces of the undead led by a mad queen. Assemble a team to gather precious resources, sway political standings, and take on brutal beasts in intricate turn-based battles. Choice is everything in Disciples Liberation, and it is up to you how you write your story. Now, a little bit from me, that's not the official description. The story begins with the main character, Aviana, and her close friend and companion, Orion, who are a pair of mercenaries called the Twilight Twins, although they're not actual twins, they're just childhood friends. They are on a mission to assassinate a certain person. One thing leads to another, trying not to spoil much here. And eventually Aviana ends up traveling via a portal to Ilion, which is a city that has been hidden to the outside world and is connected to her. Again, I don't want to spoil much how this happens. This is when the real adventure begins. Aviana and Orion will clear out quests one after the other, visiting various locations, each with its own main story and plenty of side missions. They will meet 8 more companions and be able to shape Ilion into a bigger city by constructing buildings and upgrading them. The story also allows you to choose sides while dealing with 4 different factions, which will affect your ending. Supposedly there's 5 different endings, and I think there's probably a 6th one, which is the one for New Game Plus, or maybe there is 4 endings, one for each faction you decide to side with, and the 5th one is the one where you unite them on your second playthrough. I can only guess exactly how that is. Who you side with will also impact the reputation you have with those factions. In turn, it affects what units you can recruit from each faction, which is tier 1, 2, 3 and 4 units. So you would need to collect certain reputations with certain factions to be able to unlock their next tiers, to be able to get their next units and things like that, to get those upgrades. Now again, I don't want to show you much of the main and side quests. We'll talk about quests in a moment. Now let's talk about combat. There is a lot of stuff to cover, so this will be slightly longer segment. So you might want to skip ahead if you don't want to know everything I will talk about. First of all, the combat will start when you interact with an enemy army. This is an army of, well, 7 dragons, so Draculiches. So if you go through this, if your level, your Aviana level, is higher than the army average level, which normally is the same for every unit, then you can conquer. But that only works in certain cases. I will explain more about that eventually later on. If you don't want to conquer them, you can fight them by pressing ready. Sometimes retreat will be open only once. I already retreated this army once, so I cannot retreat anymore. So I can either conquer, which will solve the fight automatically without me needing to fight it, or do ready. You can edit your formation if you feel like it. Make sure you've got the right stuff equipped. When you're ready, just click the corresponding button, and then you would see the combat system, which is a somewhat traditional turn-based tactical combat, similar to other Disciples games. Heroes of Might and Magic, King's Bounty, Age of Wonders, and other such franchises. Yet it still does things differently than those games that I've mentioned. Unlike Heroes of Might and Magic, where one side acts first then the other, Disciples Liberation adopts an initiative system that determines the order in which units act in a round. You can see here at the top, this is 184 initiative, this unit here has 110. You can see the dragons have 100, which means all of my units are able to go before the dragons. If I scroll over here, you would see round 2 starts once this dragon does their turn. Each unit has initiative, and you can check that here, and you can get equipment to help you with initiative. You can get certain shards to help with initiative. For example, some of my backline units I have equipped with shards to help with initiative, like this one. So there are certain things to improve to make sure you go before your enemies. Another thing worth mentioning is action points, more in a moment. Just let me quickly keep explaining about initiative. The higher the initiative of a certain unit, the better. The unit with the highest initiative acts first, and the one with the lowest acts last. I'm not sure how the game handles cases where one unit has the same initiative as another. For example, you can see those dragons, they all have 100 initiative. Those two have 110, and those two have 120. How does the game decide which one goes first? I don't know, maybe it checks the tier, but see, this is tier 2 and tier 4 acts after it, whereas this is tier 3 and it acts before tier 2, so probably tier has nothing to do with it. I've noticed that when my units have equal initiative, this happens sometimes. Probably there's a script who goes first, who goes last, that's invisible to us. So as I mentioned, there is something called action points. Every unit has action points. And you can see Aviana, because I've upgraded her after reaching a certain promotion, finishing certain quest, she has 3 action points. Every other unit has 2 action points. There are 3 types of action points. Blue, which is only used for movement. And it depends on your movement stat. You can increase the movement with certain items and abilities. Then red. Red is used by a unit only to perform an ability, an action. Either the basic standard ability attack or one of the others. And then there is yellow, which can be used either as a blue or as a red. So it can either be used to move or used to attack and cast an ability. Casting spells with Aviana will consume red or yellow, because yellow is substituted for each of them. And you can see remaining AP at the end of a unit's turn will heal 10% of that unit's maximum HP. So for each action point remaining, 10% healing, on top of other types of regeneration you might have from other sources. Now, as you've noticed, there is an ultimate ability that Aviana has, and ultimate abilities consume all action points. Some companions have ultimates of their own. See, Ilmeren comes with 2 action points, and that are yellow, and her ultimate is 2 action points. But ultimates, you cannot use ultimate at the beginning. You have to wait X amounts of rounds. In this case it's 6 rounds, but since I have a passive ability that reduces it by 1 round, I need to wait 5 rounds. So it will consume all of the points. You can see Baktal, who also has an ultimate. In his case it's 4 rounds reduced to 3 rounds. So that is something to keep in mind. Now let me talk a little bit more again about action points. What color a unit's AP is kind of predetermined. And it's different for each unit. Aviana starts with 1 blue and 1 yellow, but later is able to unlock 1 more red action point. So that's how so you have blue and yellow, then you get the red one, which allows you to cast twice in a turn, or use skills twice in a turn. Companions always have 2 yellow action points, if you've seen. So that's pretty nice for companions. That means you can either attack twice, or move and attack, or move twice with a companion. And what I've also noticed is tier 4 units also seem to always have 2 yellow action points. See, this is a tier 4 unit. One of the dragons somehow moved before me. But yeah, you can see they all have action points that are 2 yellow, and my tier 4 unit also. Every single tier 4 unit I've seen seems to have 2 yellow. That's how it works for them. All other units, which would be standard and special units, will either have 1 red, 1 blue, 1 yellow, 1 blue, or 1 yellow, 1 red. Example of a special unit will be this, Liurina. She is exactly the same as the Succubus, just with slightly more HP and stats. She has the same skills, the same passive, same backline, slightly stronger stats in terms of HP, and she has a name. Whereas if you take this Berserker, this Infernal Knight, this is a standard tier 3 unit. So the standard and the special units, they're the same, just that the special is slightly better. But in terms of AP, same rules. So as I mentioned, it's a standard turn-based tactical system, so you have to move 1 unit first and then it's the next one. Let me quickly show you what one can do with this system. So let's take Aviana. I can move her here, get some power. And I still have the option to cast 2 spells. If I were to maybe cast this, we can do some damage to those dragons here. Boom. And do damage again to those dragons here, maybe. Just to kill them, maybe.
Stand down.
See, the debris didn't let me cast there, that means I couldn't hit 3 of them. And now it's the next unit. And with the next unit again, I'm not gonna go with every single unit, but you can see I can shoot here. And I can shoot again. And so on, until those units are done doing their turns, it won't be the turn of another unit. And if you want, you can wait. And waiting will put a unit to a different place in the order. I'll show you. First, let's end the turn here. And now, let's say with this unit I want to wait. I'm gonna do control, and you see what happens now. This unit is moved all the way to the back of the line. And that's gonna be it in terms of showing you the combat. Next I'll show you more about the world. Now in terms of explorable world, keep in mind this might to a certain extent spoil you something. If you don't want to get spoiled, you might want to skip ahead from this section. Now, in order to move around the world, you need to talk to Orion. There are 12 explorable maps / zones. Each of those has a main story / quest attached to it. And a lot of side quests that players can obtain by interacting with various NPCs in those maps. However, there are certain limits to which zones can be visited during what time of the game. At the start of Act 1, you will have to choose 1 out of 4 maps. Fields of Widows, Huric, Greyleaf and the Whitelands. See, this is Whitelands, this is Greyleaf, this is Huric. I cannot show you Fields of Widows. I don't want to spoil you much why, but this is where it used to be. It used to be here. This used to be the Plains of Widows, I guess is the way to call it, Plains of Widows. So yeah, once you pick one of those four, for example, if you do like me and pick Plains of Widows, you will move into Plains of Widows, and until you're done with Plains of Widows, you will not be able to travel to Whitelands, Greyleaf, and Hurick. Once you finish Plains of Widows, which is, or whichever other map you select, you don't have to select in a specific order. Once you finished your first map of Act 1, you will be able to choose the second one. It moves you to the second one. But then if you go back to your town and talk to Orion, it will let you travel to the first or the second. Once you finish the second and start the third one, then you would be able to move between the first, second, and third. And the same way, once you start the fourth map for Act 1, you would be able to move in between all four. Eventually you start Act 2, and then there will be a choice of 3 new maps, which, if I'm not mistaken, was Wotan's Grave, Verantu Or, and I think the Path of Flesh and Flames. I think those 3. And then once you do that, you would be able to travel in between them. First, you would pick, for example, you pick Veranto, or that won't let you go in between the others. Maybe it's not Veranto, or maybe it's something else. Maybe it's Baratnor. I can't remember exactly. But Act 2 gives you 3 maps. You pick one, you cannot travel between the other two until that one is finished. But you can visit Act 1's maps alongside Act 2's first map. Then you start Act 2's second map, and that would let you travel to Act 2's second map, to Act 2's first map of your choice, and Act 1's maps, and so on. I hope you're seeing my point here in terms of explaining how this works. And eventually you will reach Act 3, which will also let you clear in the same way, in the exact same way that you've been clearing up till now. And eventually you will be able to see all those maps that are here on my map. This is a little bit of a spoiler, so yeah, hopefully it's not that big of a spoiler and it didn't ruin it for everyone. And those, at a certain point in the game, you reach a certain event that changes, reshapes completely some of the maps and zones, such as Castle Hale and some other places. I don't wanna mention much exactly what changes, but this means you have to revisit those quests, those zones, and that means even though there's 12 zones, there is more than 12 quests, because certain zones you would have to go back to clear out of enemies again and do some main missions in those places again. You pick a realm by for example doing this, holding the mouse button or whatever button it is on a controller if you use a controller, and it teleports you to the map, and then you can go back to Ilion, and if you want to travel again you just talk to Orion. And that's pretty much how it is in this regard. Let's travel back to this place. So as I mentioned, you talk to Orion and you can look at the map. If you don't want to do that, if you just want to return back to where you were, on PC it's T, but you can press here as well. T will return me exactly where I was, which is at the beginning of Queen's Nest. And as you move around the map, you would see certain things you can interact with, such as a health fountain. There will be a lot of NPCs spread around. There might be patrolling NPC units. In this map almost everything is cleared except one thing. There's mana fountains, and if you open your map you would be able to see those things. See, I've cleared everything, I've captured all sorts of mines. There are certain barriers that you can only move through if you have the unit that interacts with that barrier. For example, gateways are one such thing. There's vines, there's corruption, there's locked doors and things like that. And here in a moment you would see a certain NPC, NPC that you can talk to and do certain things while talking to that NPC. I've already done the quest, so there's not much I can do with it. But see, we can either do this or do this. And there we go, we just did a choice here. Now I want to show you what happens. As I mentioned, there is conquer. You can choose to conquer certain units. So if I interact with this unit, it will let me either fight, retreat, only once. I've already retreated once from this fight, or conquer. I can conquer units that are lower than Aviana's level. Aviana is level $67, 64. Obviously I can conquer them. This is what happens. You win automatically. You get the experience, you get the rewards. And now this chest, there's gonna be a lot of chests around the map. An unopened chest will have this treasure chest wootable option icon on the map. Once it's wooted, it will disappear. Let's show you. This was what was in the chest, a spell, a new spell. More about spells later. And now it's gone. So be sure to complete everything you can in a certain map zone before you move on to the next one. Whatever you cannot complete for one reason or another, such as for example having a companion without a specific skill unlocked yet, for example the skill to remove corruption or to travel through gateways. Obviously you cannot do it, you have to leave it for later. You would have to return back when you have the companion with that skill, or when you've unlocked that skill, even if you already had the companion, and revisit that area. But try to do everything. That's my pro tip. Don't rush. By not rushing and taking your time, you guarantee that your level is sufficient enough before moving to the next map, and that you'll be able to do this conquer option to save yourself some time and not needing to fight trash mobs, fodder armies. So yeah, I like to call them fodder, those trash mobs. Conquer will not show up all the time. So conquer will only show up as an option on fights that are not important, that are not linked to quests. However, it will work on all those random patrolling NPCs, armies. And by patrolling armies, I mean armies that move from point A to point B to point A to point B, and so on, rather than the unit I just fought, which was static. And there will be static and non-static units. Those patrolling monsters will be aggressive, so if you go close to them they will attack, whereas with the others you would have to click on them to engage in a fight. I probably didn't mention everything that I could have mentioned during this segment, but there's more on the website version of this guide. Now, in terms of quests, as I mentioned, there are side quests, companion quests as well, another thing, and main quests. Don't read the thing here in the main quest. I wanna not click much on it because it's a big spoiler, that final quest. But side quests and companion quests. I'm gonna show you some quests here. Let's see. This one is a side quest. It's probably not a big spoiler to read about it. Side quests you obtain from certain NPCs on the map. They're not needed, they're optional, but it's definitely worth doing them for the rewards and for the experience, as well as the additional fights that you might unlock from those quests and trigger. It's worth it. Companion quests, on the other hand, are quests closely linked to the personal story of a certain companion, and they appear at specific points in the story. Starting companion quest has a prerequisite conditions that need to be met. Some of the companions quests start earlier than others, in the same way how some companions you meet earlier than others. Each companion will have more than a single companion quest, and 7 out of the 9 companions have a quest that rewards you a legendary weapon that only that companion can use. Not sure why the other 2 don't have such a quest. But maybe they do, and I made a choice somewhere down the line during my playthrough that made it so those quests don't appear. In any case, those legendary weapons will be created and catered towards the assumed playstyle that fits that character, and will provide boost to not just that companion but also to units of their faction that are similar to it. I'm gonna show you with an example. If we look at Baktao and his blade, which is not the one that he's wearing, Baktao's blade is this one. No, it's actually this one. Can only be equipped by Baktao as a requirement. Baktao ignores 25% of all resistance when attacking. This thing with the ignored resistance will be on every unit weapon. This one, for example, is Edgemar. This one for Ilmeren. So you would see ignoring the resistance is a common thing. This one for Charlem. So it will give you something like ignoring the resistance. And this one, since it's for Baktao, it grants Infernal Knights and Berserkers, which are similar to Baktao in terms of mechanics, additional HP. And this weapon, if you've noticed, it gives Constitution, Strength, Power, HP and Physical Resistance. Whereas if we look at Ilmeren's bow, you would see that it gives Dexterity instead of Strength. It gives Power, it doesn't give Constitution, it gives Initiative and Crit Chance, and Divine Resistance, it doesn't give Physical Resistance. It gives 250 HP instead of 300 HP, and Divine Resistance instead of Physical, and it also gives you 250 HP to succubi and Erinis, I don't know how to pronounce these units, that are similar to Ilmeren. And that's just how it works. And look at that, this one, Edgemar, again with Crit Chance and Initiative, 326 HP, whereas this one is 250. So it's catered towards that unit. This one gives Intelligence and Power. For example, this one for Charlea, Strength, Dex, Power, Initiative, Crit Chance, HP, grants Vampires and Werewolf units extra HP, and so on. So hopefully this kind of clears it out. It is possible that some of the companion quests can only be triggered during Act 1 or during Act 2, and not during the other acts, and maybe I didn't trigger them, maybe I missed my chance and that's why I didn't get them. In any case, I think those weapons are cool. I may not be using them right now because I managed to make myself better weapons, at least better for the way I like to play the game, but they're definitely great and worth using. Now, I think that's enough for quests. Do every single side quest if you want to progress as much as possible before moving on to the next zone. This is my advice. Thanks for watching this video, Struck Quip. Make sure to watch the other two videos if you're interested in the things they cover. Remember that you can subscribe to my YouTube channel to get notified when I upload more content for this game or other games. You can click the bell button after subscribing to not miss out those notifications. Additionally, there's YouTube memberships where you can pay monthly to subscribe to be a member of my channel, and you will get access to emotes and badges that have been made by me. There's also an optional thing that you can ask me for, which is some tutorials for Photoshop, Adobe Premiere and so on for YouTube members. Thanks for watching this video again, keep it cool, and until next time, goodbye.